Sekeres Price for Monday, April 29th, 2024. We're coming to you from the Nation Network studio built by Arbor Lee here at the iconic Wall Center, downtown Vancouver. And if you're heading to a game or an event downtown, make it a staycation. Call the Wall, 604-331-1000, based on, ask for that Sekeres Price rate based on availability. Matt Sekeres, alongside Blake Price, Grady Sass, hitting switches, conducting things with Sean Chessman. We've got a big show coming up. That's all brought to you by Applewood Auto Group.
Applewood Nissan in Richmond has the car built for everything BC has to offer. The 2024 Nissan Rogue. Lease it at just 2.99% for the next 24 months. Take one for a test drive. You'll fall in love. Applewood Nissan in Richmond. It's all good at Applewood.
Our poll question today, who should start Game 5? Arturs Silovs or a healthy Casey DeSmith? Excuse me, you can vote at Sekeres Price on Twitter, YouTube. After a stunning turn, yet again, in the Vancouver Canucks,
Rick Tocchet
Nashville Predators.
just spoken on this. Mm-hmm. He shed no light on it.
Yeah.
He's keeping his cards close to the vest.
Yeah, I mean, he indicated to Smith after the 4-3 overtime victory in Game 4 Sunday. I suspect that's where they're going, so long as he's healthy, right? And look, all the reporting on this is that it's a relatively minor injury, that Casey DeSmith could have played through it, has played through worse. But the Canucks were sizing it up and going, okay, do we play a goaltender who we know is not 100% when we have faith in the third-string goaltender in Arturs Silovs? And so, who knows? That logic may yet again extend to Game 5 here at Rogers Arena on Tuesday. And in fact, Blake, you know, when you think of it, if you lose Game 5 with Silovs, you have bought DeSmith more time.
Yep.
And you still have a series lead with 2 chances to close out. If you lose Game 5 with Casey DeSmith, then is Silovs your guy the rest of the way?
See, they know.
Depends how he looks, but yeah.
They know the injury, right? Mm-hmm. So if it's pain management, I'm just throwing stuff out there, like a bone bruise where it'll get better progressively, but chances of re-injuring it are, they know the nature of this. So only, those sorts of details matter in making this calculus, because you're right. If the extra 3 days gets DeSmith way ahead,
because remember, Game 6 is Friday, everybody. We would have another 2-day break in the series.
Yeah.
If Game 6 is.
So it's an additional 3 days of rest for DeSmith. If you go Silovs, you're right, if that's the calculus. But if they've sort of reached a point where it's neither here nor there, the extra 3 days is just going to be pain management for DeSmith, and it'll progressively get better anyhow, then maybe you could go to DeSmith. But they know the details, we don't. So That's the unfortunate part.
I voted Silovs.
The fact that there's even a shred of evidence that, and there is a shred of evidence, because as you mentioned, Tocchet did talk positively about a possibility of DeSmith after the game. So with that in mind, it leads you to believe, ergo, that this injury is something that can be come back from in a short order. So if that's the case, I'm tempted to go DeSmith.
Okay.
But we'll see. We'll see. I mean, right now, I would say the odds are 50-50. I think it's right down the middle right now.
Let's get to our top story. It's brought to you by Douglas. For once, Canuck luck is puck luck. It goes their way in Music City on Sunday. It takes a North Vancouver boy, Colton Sissons, hitting the post with the Canucks goaltender on the bench to forge a 2-goal comeback. In the waning moments, the Canucks force overtime and win it 4-3 on Elias Lindholm's goal, just 62 seconds into the extra frame. It's a 3-1 series lead. Game 5, as mentioned, Tuesday here at Rogers Arena, a hat trick for Brock Boeser, including the 2 goals with Canucks goaltenders on the bench, 3 assists for JT Miller, 2-point night for Elias Lindholm, including the game-winning goal, and Silovs makes 27 saves. The Predators players, you may have seen the photos, the videos, were celebrating on the bench, thinking Sissons was going to put the game away or had to put the game away.
Sit down, sir. Sit down. Wait for that puck to cross the line. And, Canucks fans have been waiting decades for this string of good luck to sort of pay off. And there's been big moments, Sammy Salo on the 5-on, the two-man advantage there in San Jose. Those are good moments, though not luck. Like there's an agency there.
Mhm.
I would say the one moment of really good luck the Canucks have had is the BX extension. That was good luck. This one ranks right up there.
Well, when Sissons hits the post, there's a couple times in the defensive zone where Nashville has the puck or is about to have the puck and they can't clear or they can't get a handle.
But there's bad luck the other way. Like the Canucks, after they score the 3-2 goal, they cannot get out of their own zone. The Preds have the puck possession for there's 90 seconds wasted there. They score with 2.5 minutes to go. They really didn't get out of their own zone until about a minute 19 remaining. Quinn Hughes parked behind the bench or behind the net, waiting for everybody to sort themselves out at the bench. And I'm thinking to myself, would you move, please? But they bought their time and bided their time appropriately and ultimately do get down in time to score the extra goal.
Well, and the top line for the Canucks with JT Miller and Brock Boeser has been the best line through this series. Third line had an outstanding game one, but really didn't carry that play through the rest of the series, although they're the ones that contribute the game winning goal on Sunday. So suddenly you look at it, Miller's up to 6 points in 4 games. Boeser's at 5 points in 4 games. Hughes and Joshua are also a point per game players in the series. But as we know with Brock, scores goals in bunches. The 4-goal game on opening night bookends it with a hat trick Sunday against the Predators. Here's number 6 on his big night, especially the 2 goals with the goalie out.
Yeah, Lindy made a great play on, that first 6-on-5 goal, and that's all I was thinking. Is I know Saros is a great goaltender, and I know he's going to probably keep his pad low. So I was thinking get upstairs, and on the second one, Millsy was trying to go, I think, a high tip there, and I think it hit a stick, and I got the rebound, and I missed that first there, and I kind of thought I lost the game for a quick second, but luckily, I just tried to get it and jam it in.
Well, he shouts Lindholm Zadorov as well, and the work he does as a net front guy to get Boeser some space at the side of the goal.
It was like a 12-foot wall, it seemed like, that he was going to allow the extra time for Brock Boeser. Huge.
Has Zadorov been the best Canuck through 4 games?
Made himself a lot of money.
Yeah. If he's not the best Canuck, he's there on the podium, right? And how about Elias Lindholm? We asked a poll, I forget how long ago, Grady, you might have a better handle. Would you do the Elias Lindholm trade again? And we got a lot of voting on it. And as I recall, most Canucks fans responded and said no. But those who did vote yes, and we talked about this at the time, he's got a chance to redeem himself in the Stanley Cup playoffs and redeem the trade in the Stanley Cup playoffs.
We weren't predicting it.
No,
it was a bit of a hopeful statement at the time.
No, but what we said at the time, and it's come true, is no one is going to remember the low point production in however many regular season games he played for the Vancouver Canucks if he shines in the Stanley Cup playoffs. And that line had an exceptional game one, was the chief reason why the Vancouver Canucks won game one. And really, that's probably the only game in the series, Blake, where the better team has won the game, right?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Since then, I think you're looking at games where the lesser of the 2 teams out there wind up the victors. And he is also producing in this series, not just as a scorer. He's got the 2 goals, including in game 1 as well, but also away from the puck and defensively and on plays like the 6-on-5 play that Boeser referenced. But he got the game winner last night. Let's hear from Elias Lindholm.
Great pass by Garland there, and I was wide open right in front. So, obviously when we score a goal like that, it's kind of relief and a lot of emotions, and lost my voice a little bit. But no, it's a good feeling, obviously.
He was so wide open that it's shocking that it happened so early in that overtime, because it's like the momentum of the game tying goal carried into overtime. You were hopeful that would happen for the Canucks, that they'd come out bigger than they had been playing. but it's like Nashville couldn't talk themselves down, because for Nashville's key players, and they were out there in that moment, for them to be discombobulated in their defensive zone. It's the biggest, that's the most acreage we have seen in the defensive zone for the Nashville Predators all series long. At any given moment, there hasn't been a Canuck player that unmarked. And for that to happen so early in the overtime period, it was, again, good fortune, whatever you want to call it. But Lindholm made no mistake.
Great pass by Garland. Nice work by Joshua. And interesting that he used the word relieved when discussing the goal.
Yeah.
You know, I think it weighed on Elias Lindholm. You know, oh my God, this team trades all these assets to get me. And then I come in and the production isn't there. Then I get hurt. Then I have to come back. But as we said on Friday, he has looked darn good since coming back from the injury. You know, a lot of players, Joshua too, you know, a lot of players need to ramp back up. It takes some time, but there's one thing that has gone the Canucks' way, is that the two real significant injuries of the season to skaters, Joshua and the broken hand with the fight, and Lindholm and whatever he was fighting through, they came back tickety-boo as good players who were contributing. Now,
we've heard this often. The path to resurgent offense is through sound defensive play.
Right.
It doesn't always, like, it's coach speak. I don't necessarily believe it every time. I think it might have been the case for Elias Lindholm, where he just sort of parked. Okay, I'm the third line center now. Expectation of offense is low here, but I'm going to do all the details. Well, he did. And now in this series, at least, there's starting to be some payoff even on the bottom line.
the Vancouver Canucks, so these are the good bounces. This is the good luck. Now, here's the Canuck luck as you know it. 3 different goaltenders have been used in this series and have won hockey games for only the 3rd time in the history of the Stanley Cup playoffs. And in fact, the last time it happened was here with the Vancouver Canucks in the first round in 2004, where Dan Cloutier wins game 1, Johan Hedberg wins game 3, and Alex Auld wins game 6. The only other time it happened was in 1972 with the Chicago Blackhawks. Had 3 goaltenders actually in a sweep, believe it or not.
Jeez. Must have been a good team ahead of them.
Anyways.
That's the top story, brought to you by Douglas Mattresses. Order yours today, douglas.ca/Canucks Army. Every mattress right now is coming with the free Comfort Sleep Bundle. That's 2 memory foam pillows with pillow protectors, luxurious cotton sheet set, and a mattress protector. That's with every order. This mattress just makes you sleep better. It does. If you're feeling tired, it may be your mattress. Wake up feeling refreshed like we are right now. It's loved by more than 200,000 Canadians already. Join the club. Order yours today, douglas.ca/Canucks Army.
The irony here, Silovs for DeSmith on Sunday. It was Arturs Silovs for Latvia beating Casey DeSmith for Team USA in the bronze medal game of last year's World Championships, where Silovs was the tournament MVP. Now he's got to play playoff hero for the Vancouver Canucks, and so far, so good. Let's hear from the big Latvian after the win last night. This was a fun interview, including the line at the end. Take a listen.
It's incredible, character win. Scored 2 goals late in the 3rd and managed to pull it out. And, it's a great feeling, winning back here 2 games and then coming back home.
JT talked about how calm you looked. What's allowed you to be that way?
I think, I played in Latvia for my hometown, and it's was the same atmosphere, I would say. And it just feels great, Either they boo you or they for you. It's always great to play.
When did you find out you were going in?
Yesterday.
And what was your reaction?
It was a great time to shine,
There's no doubt about it. There's no doubt about it that the European, hockey model, borrowing some from soccer, it's a great atmosphere. It's a great atmosphere. I don't know that Latvian domestic league is akin to the National Hockey League playoffs.
I don't either.
I don't think so. But whatever got you to the point where you could get that win, however you used that experience, keep it going.
Yeah, I mean, if that's what he has to tell himself.
Yes.
Hey,
it's just like Latvia.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
It's just like
and he didn't even call in the representing his country Latvia experience. He was talking Latvian domestic league.
That's right.
Like, why wouldn't you bring up the World Championships?
I mean, it's just like another Tuesday at HK Curbads.
Honestly, it's charming, and again, however they want to use it, it's fabulous. It was absolutely a problem. I've yet to tell the story here. I was in transit coming back from New Jersey for this game. It's starting as we're boarding the plane. So Paul Dolan and I are huddled over my phone watching the early moments of the first period. As you get into the fuselage, your 5G service gets pretty spotty. First period, didn't see a ton of it. Anyway, then we take off, have to wait till we plane before we get to the get to cruising altitude before Wi-Fi kicks in.
Right.
Anyway, I watched most of the end of the second period, most of the third, and finally get to a perfect Wi-Fi level for the final few minutes of the third period. And I didn't mutter anything at 3-2 because I'm like, what are the chances? At 3-3, I'm like the only one I can see around me that's got it open and is doing this. And I give it a little bit of the 3-3 goal, and somebody peeked over. Are you watching the Canucks game? I said, yeah. What just happened? I said, Boeser just tied it up with 5 seconds left. And she said, who else scored? I said, it's all Boeser.
One guy.
And then it goes to overtime, and poor older lady who was in front of me, she was getting up to go to the bathroom. The goal goes in. I'm like, whoa! And she turns around. She goes, I'm so sorry. I'm like, no. Sorry. Perfectly quiet playing. Scared the bejesus out of her. I said, I'm so sorry for scaring you.
You're allowed to go to the restroom.
Exactly. In fact, I might need to as well now.
Well, we were at Greta, and I got to say, with 5 minutes left in the third period, and the shots, 10-2 Nashville or whatever they were in the third period.
How many people left,
and
Greta?
The Canucks looking so lifeless.
Yeah.
Like, in terms of, there's hope for the comeback here. That must have been in the first or second, like way down the percentile list in terms of Canucks games that I've watched where I'm thinking, hey, they're not done here. They still got some fight.
Yeah.
They look deader than a doornail. They looked like they were packing and getting ready for the flight. This looked like a 2-2 series with the Canucks. I don't even know if you want to say they were going through the motions. I'm not even sure it reached the level of going through the motions. There just seemed to be no urgency, no life. Paterson looked absolutely vacant. Like he wasn't even there. So it was astonishing. A lot of the patrons at Greta had turned to the arcade, had turned to their phones, were settling their bills. Get me the hell out of here. This was time wasted because of the Canucks looking so poor through 55, 57 minutes. Couple other things on the goaltending before we move on. And this seems to, like, Jim Rutherford seems to be the general manager, like, with the most goaltending quirks and oddities in his career. 2016, his Penguins team, I remember this. Now, they didn't get wins from these three guys in the same series, but you may remember that was during the Marc-Andre Fleury, Matt Murray dance. Jeff Zatkoff played a game for them in 2016.
I recall it, yeah.
For the Penguins. And look, here's something. Michael McCarron has been an effective hockey player in this series.
Mm-hmm.
The big one-time first rounder of the Montreal Canadiens. He's an absolute giant. What is it, 6'6", 6'7", 200 whatever pounds. He can play the game a little bit. He's been a late bloomer, but he can play the game a little bit. But the run he takes at DeSmith in game 3, Blake, again, I don't give these guys the benefit of the doubt when it's
he leans in. No.
I think he's looking to take DeSmith out of the game, knowing the Canucks are already down a goaltender. You know what? Karma.
Yeah.
Karma.
Yeah.
You make a dangerous, needless play like that, and he was penalized, and it was costly penalty for the first, but you make a dangerous, needless play like that, which a lot of us look at and go, that's intent to injure or intent to do harm at the very least. The come up was real. in game 4.
2 and
against
10 wouldn't have
Arturs
been a
Silovs.
crazy assessment there. 2 and 10 would have been okay by me. But and that's the best thing is to just let that happen naturally, the revenge, if you will, because you're not going to get proper revenge, especially on a guy that size, because the only guys that can really exact any proper revenge are maybe Joshua, but even that size disparity is not great for him, but probably the 2 defensemen. And the Canucks right now cannot afford, can you believe that we're saying this, cannot afford for Tyler Myers and Nikita Zadorov to be out of service for 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And maybe beyond if they try to exact some revenge. So, just playing their way through it is probably the best thing. And overall, they've absorbed it. I mean, they out-hit the Preds again. As physical as the Preds have tried to be, and they've certainly, extracted a toll on Hughes, which we can get into here, but it's not so much to the point where some of the narratives that people were worried about with regards to Canucks softness, they're not built for the playoffs. I don't think that's reared its head at all.
No.
I mean, goaltender toughness is not a thing.
So I think playoff inexperience was a thing in game 1. I think it took them a while to get going in game 1, and I think that was part and part. There were some wide-eyed guys.
You can't get experience till you have experience.
No, exactly. You had 3 players who had never played a postseason game in game 1, and then you had a goaltender who had played one postseason game in his past, and Casey DeSmith. So I think those things were real, but I agree with everything else he said. Also, you guys wanted to hear from Connor Garland. He played for Team USA in that bronze medal game against Arturs Silovs in Latvia. Here's the diminutive Canucks winger on memories of that game.
He's a gamer. He's calm. Couldn't even tell it was, his first game. So, really excited for him. Played well. He, like I said, I saw him this summer. He killed us at Worlds, and I saw how talented he was, how agile. He's an athlete. You see it when he's in the net, and he just competes. So, yeah, he's fun to play for.
The Worlds, though, didn't have any effect on him. Latvian domestic league.
You guys are harsh on the poor kid.
No, we're harsh on the Latvian domestic league being a equivalent to the Stanley Cup.
Again, high pressure situation. I'm sure in his own head,
goalies
are weird like that. Like
whatever he needs to tell himself. It's just the rest of the world goes one of those things.
He played for an improbable medal at the World Hockey Championships.
Yes.
That's the pressure cooker.
Yes.
Hey, maybe he meant that too. That just came out.
He didn't.
English is a second language. Come on, be nice.
It was a beauty answer. Got no problem with it whatsoever. As Matt has often said, if it's a perceived slight or whatever you use as inspiration, whatever your preparation is, if it ends in the right way, it doesn't matter at all.
Yeah. So moving along to the captain and Quinn Hughes, who, needless to say, is hurt and fighting through something. That much is obvious. Fantastic piece from our colleague Frank Saravelli on the Daily Faceoff right now. Frank is dug into the data. He's dug into the math here on Hughes. The deployment clue. Hughes' ice time is down a minute 35 per game compared to the regular season.
Yeah.
Typically, it goes the other way with a top defense.
We were worried about 30-minute nights. How many 30-minute nights could he?
24-41. We were thinking he's playing 26 minutes plus per night every. No, he's playing 23:06 so far. Game 3, he was less than 20 minutes. That happened once during the 82-game regular season, November 2nd.
Even if you're down a lot, you still never saw that. And then that's proof right there.
Then there's the advanced stats, the data. So Quinn Hughes during the regular season had 746 more puck carries, 6 feet or longer, than any other player in the league. That's not total. That's more than the number 2 guy.
Yeah.
Right? He also completed more passes than anybody in the league. He was 6% better than the second guy. That was Drew Doughty. So he's carrying the puck in the offensive zone more than Connor McDavid, and he's completing passes more than Drew Doughty, who, if I'm not mistaken, led the league in ice time or average ice time per game. Frank looked into the advanced stats. Hughes, generating 1/3 fewer shot attempts per game compared to the regular season in this series, completing 22% fewer passes under pressure, which is very much tied to the Nashville Predators taking goes at him virtually every time he is near the boards and in his own zone. Rick Tocchet said it after Game 5. Yeah, they're running him. So,
and the effect has been that even when he's not under extraordinary physical pressure, he's doing uncharacteristic Quinn Hughes sorts of things.
Correct.
Falling, bobbling, all that sort of stuff that we just don't see. And it's just, it's such a drastic difference.
Yeah.
Now, that play that he makes along the boards on the tying goal, that's Quinn Hughes. Right. And the fact that he still was able to make that happen leads you to believe that whatever is sore for him, it's clearly overcomable in some moments, because that was Quinn Hughes. But he still doesn't look like he's able to pull that off as often as he would like and as often as we are used to seeing in any given game.
So the importance here is you got to win Game 5 because you need to give Quinn Hughes as much time as possible.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I know JT Miller talked about, the flight time. What's the importance of winning Game 5? 8 hours, 8.5 hours, whatever he said.
Going back and forth.
Going back and forth. It's the longest journey between first round cities in the NHL this year. And that very much applies, and that very much applies for the full group. But let's face it. And Saravelli said it when he joined me for post-game on Sunday night. Everything about the Vancouver Canucks in the Stanley Cup playoffs now is about how much can Quinn Hughes withstand, how effective can he be fighting through whatever it is he's fighting through.
And
because, if you've got a limited Quinn Hughes in round 2 against a team like Edmonton, that is an awfully tall order for the Canucks, especially if Demko isn't going to be ready to go until at best late in that series.
And there's another factor at work here. Is there a better song that should have played at the end of regulation than Pearl Jam's Alive? Probably not. And
is that what they played?
No, they should have, though. Canucks fans should have played
Pearl Jam's here this weekend, incidentally.
Well, that's my point here. That's where I'm going, is that a win in Game 5 combined with Eddie Vedder and company May 4th and May 6th at Rogers means that, and remember, Canucks have home ice advantage in the second round too. They can't start until May 7th, absolute earliest, if not May 8th. That means you get a full week off,
right,
for all those bumps and bruises to get a little bit better for the Vancouver Canucks. If I'm Rick Tocchet, I'm talking to my guys like it's Game 7.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm talking like, guys, we're winning this game. We're not getting back on that plane for all the above reasons.
I hear you. Is there a little bit of danger in putting too much emphasis on Game 5 where if you lose it, you're so down about going to Nashville?
I don't think you make it like there's no way we can do it, but you do have to dangle the extra carrot in front of them, I think, and say, guys, if you want to win the cup this year, these are the kinds of moments that will help you accomplish that feat.
Right.
Like, give yourself the extra octane.
Eddie's a pretty big sports fan. Do you think he'll introduce or he'll punctuate Alive with something on the Canucks if they advance? I think he probably would.
Well, he'll say something about it. If the Canucks advance, Eddie's very aware of this sort of stuff. He would absolutely mention
he knows the sports.
Yes, he does.
Of course, the band's name at one point.
Mookie Blaylock.
Terrific guard, University of Oklahoma in Atlanta.
Mm-hmm.
21, 18, 12, 20. Those are your lottery numbers? No. They're Vancouver Canucks shot totals in the 4 individual games. 71 in the series, averaging less than 18 per game. And until the final flurry with the goaltender out, we're on the verge of setting a new Stanley Cup playoff utility record for fewest shots on goal through 12 periods. I'll ask you what I asked Saravelli last night. Can they win the series like this? Or because this series has been so crazy, like, don't even try and apply the logic of shots on goal being a prerequisite to scoring goals, being a prerequisite to winning because of the way this thing has gone, which is just bananas.
I don't have it in front of me. The context, though, would be that the Predators' shot totals are not exactly double the Vancouver Canucks. Also low.
Well, no, it was 31 last night. So it winds up being the Canucks, it was 30 for the Predators.
Yeah, 30.
So it's 9 more. Incidentally, folks, there are shot audits now that go on in the National Hockey League.
It changes daily.
So like I tweeted something at the end of the period. Someone said, hey, you got the shot. Well, they're doing edits in the intermissions. They're doing edits after the game.
Shorty's bringing it up.
The shot clock and the shot totals you hear us reference are effectively going to be, general estimates here because they're going to change within a shot or two, or in shot attempts. It might even be more than that after all these shot audits are done. So Nashville puts 30 pucks on goal. Friday, they put 30 pucks on goal. Sunday. Yes, game 2 was extraordinary for how little Nashville threatened the goal. But really, the other games in the series, Blake, Nashville is doing their level best to get the puck on net, which is not something the Vancouver Canucks are doing a lot. 24 shots in game 1 for Nashville. That's low, but
that's low.
In the context of this series, that's high. So they're 30, 30, 24, and then the utter outage in game 2 in terms of shots on goal.
The Oiler game last night, honestly, is useful for context, though, too, in that, you would not in your wildest dreams, even against the LA Kings, think that especially in the wake of how the Edmonton Oilers have played the LA Kings in the series so far, there's no chance you would have said that the Oilers could pull off what the Canucks did. And they did that, winning 1-0 on 13 shots on goal versus the Los Angeles Kings. You know what? These sorts of things happen. And I think that's proof right there. I would be concerned if it happened again in game 5 on the road where the Preds have last change. You can really manipulate the stuff to the nth degree. I would be far more concerned. I thought the first period was fine for the Canucks, even with a modest 8 shots on goal. And I thought that the fact that they came out and played like they did in the opening 2 minutes there of overtime, I think the Canucks feel like they have unlock something, and the fact that they just had offensive success, I think that they have unlocked something a little bit here. So let's see what game 5 looks like. I would hit Bet365 if they've got it on the Canucks getting to 25 shots or something to that effect, because I have a funny feeling the Canucks are getting to 25 shots at minimum in game number 5.
Well, and you would have to think that Nashville is going to want to put a lot of pucks on whomever starts in goal for the Canucks in game 5. Test them out. Silovs, you're not out of the woods just yet. You're still a young goaltender who has played just 10 NHL games, or that was his 10th.
The Preds only blocked 10 shots.
And of course, Saros hasn't been very good.
You can't be scared to shoot anymore if you're the Canucks. I understand that the 30 block shot night really made them sort of, okay, we got to be a bit more perfect, more precise. They blocked 10 shots. That's just an average night in the NHL. So shoot away. Let's, cross the block shot problem when you get to it. Mm-hmm. But at 10 block shots on the night, shoot away. Yeah. Don't be picky.
And Silovs actually joins Alex Auld and Corey Schneider on the list of goaltenders with the fewest NHL regular season games to make their playoff debut.
And the heat map matters.
I don't think we can understate just how tough of a spot that was to drop a young goaltender with 9 games NHL experience in on the road in a playoff series against a desperate opponent who thoroughly outplayed you in game 3.
Great, I'm putting you on completely on the spot. If you can't do it, no problem. But if you can get the heat map up, it'd be helpful, because it's an unbelievable heat map. The Canucks did a marvelous job of keeping the Predators to the outside of this game. So well outshot. I don't know that I've ever seen a duller heat map right at the top of the crease, though, for the Nashville Predators. All their shots were from the middle part of the circle. They weren't even low circle. They were middle circle or top circle at best, to the point where at even strength, scoring chances, according to Natural Stat Trick, even for the game last night, 14-14. High danger chances, in the Canucks' favor at 4-3 at even strength. So, the shots tells you something, but going a little deeper, the Canucks did a pretty good job of saying, you want to fire away from the top of the circle, do your best. Now, they did score from out, but the chances if you get multiple goals from the top of the circles in today's day and age of the National Hockey League, I mean, it's not a high percentage shot.
Speaking of goaltending, Thatcher Demko is one of 3 finalists for the Vezina Trophy awarded to the league's top goaltender. We thought he might make the grade. Connor Hellebuck of the Winnipeg Jets and Sergei Bobrovsky of the Florida Panthers are the other finalists. Now, the thing is this is voted on by the general managers, not the Professional Hockey Writers Association. And it's voted on prior to the end of the regular season. I still do suspect that Connor Hellebuck is going to win.
He's in the middle. I think he's going to win. He's got literally like the trophies above his head, I think. So it's
good thing they're not taking the vote now with Connor Hellebuck in the Winnipeg Jets.
Right.
Who, incidentally, now kind of has a reputation of a goaltender who wilts in the Stanley Cup playoffs. Laurent Brossoit winds up coming in to play the third period. And look, the Colorado Avalanche have tons of firepower. But a lot of us who picked Winnipeg in that series picked Winnipeg because of what looked to be a monstrous advantage in goal, right? Georgiev was terrible down the stretch. And Connor Hellebuck was extraordinary most of the season. I think he's going to win. I think Demko's going to finish second. There's a lot of screaming about Bobrovsky getting the final, being one of the finalists here, because if you dug a little deeper into the stats, you would find that Bobrovsky wasn't even the best goalie on his team.
Yes. Yeah.
Now, the traditional stats for Bobrovsky are very good, but I think it's a 2-horse race, and really, I think it's going to be Hellebuck, and Hellebuck by some margin. But it's good to see Thatcher get recognized for his season, because that last month where he only played the 2 games right before the start of the Stanley Cup playoffs could have affected his candidacy. And it looks like a lot of people just took the totality of his season, given the injury, and said, no, he was one of the 3 best.
Hellebuck in the playoffs has been feast or famine. He's had 3 really good seasons of the 6 playoff seasons he's had with the Winnipeg, and 3 really bad ones, including 2 below the 900 save percentage mark, which is just not like him. I mean, you could make the case that him playing as badly as they did in 2020, 23, and this year, a big reason why they're not advancing. When you've got one of the top 5 goaltenders in the world on your team, no matter how badly you play, they are your last line of defense. You kind of write in at least a 905, 910 save percentage for that guy, don't you? No matter how badly you play.
Yeah, I mean, once again, though, we're in the Stanley Cup playoffs. We're not talking about the credentialed or resumed goaltender. We're talking about who's going in the moment. And it's not.
But generally, you roll the dice that pedigree goalie is the guy that's more able to find his game and be that difference maker. But we're seeing it with UC Saros. UC Saros, wonderful goaltender. He's not saved the Nashville Predators in this series.
No. And the goaltending story in this organization, this is Brandon Assel, play-by-play man for the Abbotsford Canucks, who get a victory over Colorado and advance to the second round of the AHL Calder Cup playoffs. More on that in a moment. Assel, Vancouver has won a game with 3 different goaltenders against Nashville, while Abbotsford just won their series with a guy, Zach Sawchenko, who didn't play a game for the first 6 months of the season. Ian Clark is the truth. And this is why you go out and invest in a goaltending coach like Ian Clark. And if there was one really good thing that, I mean, there were several things, but one thing that I think really stands out about a particularly difficult period in Canucks history, coming out of the bubble, coming off the pandemic, when the free agent taps were turned off, you may remember, when a lot of bad and save my ass decision-making was going on, the Canucks recommitted to keep Ian Clark here long-term, gave him the fancy title, basically told him, you're in charge of goaltending throughout the organization. And Ian has repaid that decision in spades thus far. Not only the work with Demko to get him to being one of the league's best, but the work with multiple backups here over the years, including Casey DeSmith as the recent success story, because let's remember, Casey DeSmith did not have a good year last year. Heck, Ian Clark got something out of Spencer Martin a few years ago.
Can I throw in a devil's advocate?
And Silovs, bringing Silovs along pretty quickly and giving him NHL experience, not to mention picking the right guys to serve as goaltender number 4 and 5 this year in Tolopilo and Sawchenko.
I don't know if I believe this, Matt, but I have seen chatter on it. You know, as great as Clark is in terms of technique and creating successful goaltenders, is what he's teaching them also what contributes to injury, given the history of injuries of the goaltenders of the last little bit?
Well, I think it's a position with a lot of unnatural human movements.
At the best of times.
Yes.
Yes.
That contribute. Yeah.
But is there something extra here, or are we just seeing? Are we not seeing everybody else in the other markets that's going down with injury as well? I mean, we've seen that in Vegas.
I think we're a long way from saying what Clark teaches causes injury. Put it that way.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it was Bertuzzi who said to us once, you know, balancing on a quarter-inch blade of steel is not what the human body was designed to do.
Well, and just
the human body is not meant to go down to a butterfly.
No, exactly.
Side to side.
No, exactly. And make some of the turns and twists. And then, of course, the ones that are under total duress where the, you know, whatever technique you've been taught is out the window. You're just doing your utmost to get in front of a puck. So,
and when you have a big body like Thatcher Demko hammering down on your knees all the time.
These are very long limbs these days with National Hockey League goaltenders because they're so big.
Hips, knees, groin, all of it under
hamstring,
a lot
like the
of stress.
entirety of it. Yeah, all of it.
Go back to stacking the pads, guys. Way easier. And the goals will go straight through the roof in the NHL, too.
Abbotsford plays the Ontario Reign, the LA Kings farm team, in the second round of the Pacific Division there in the AHL. The first two games are down in Ontario, California. Game 3 goes May 8th at Abbey Center at 7 p.m. That's the only guaranteed game right now. It's a best-of-5 series. If games 4 and 5 were required, they would also be in Abbotsford. You're looking at Game 4 on May 10th at 7 p.m. and Game 5 May 12th at 4 p.m. And let's hope Brandon Assel gets on the road for this series. Read that not only are the Canucks the only NHL team still alive, not traveling their radio play-by-play crew, but the Abbotsford Canucks, the only HL team alive that is not traveling their
crew
radio broadcasts. So a hope for the sake of all those broadcasters and for the sake and quality of their calls.
47
that they get on
saves,
the road and in the buildings.
47 saves for Sawchenko, by the way, is an unbelievable performance. But for others wondering who led the Canucks, the baby Canucks to the series victory, 2-2 for Archie Baines in the series. So he leads the point getters. But Linus Karlsson had a couple of goals. And I wonder if we might be getting a little bit of a sneak preview of fourth line possibilities for next year in Karlsson and Baines, and we've seen them already. But I mean, you know, they're proving that even in the tougher time of the playoffs, they're stepping up big time. The scores weren't as prominent. Ratu had a goal and an assist in the 3 games, so not completely absent, but something to watch going forward here is can any of the true prospects be a contributor in this playoff run for the baby Canucks? And so far, Karlsson might be to Baines. I hesitate in calling Baines. He's an older guy, but he's still a prospect, I guess, to some degree. Those two guys so far leading the way.
Seattle has fired head coach Dave Haxtell. Ron Francis searching now for a new head coach down the I-5. Joined some other teams that are out there looking for a new head coach. Of course, Craig Berube is out there with the Stanley Cup ring.
Is 3 years fair for Haxtell?
Todd, well,
I mean, it's an expansion team. They're a more traditional expansion team.
So a more traditional expansion team with a general manager who, partly by design, partly because of everybody around him being so shook and scared after the Vegas experience, had to construct a roster that was going to take its lumps, and they did just that in year one. You want to give them a pass in year one. Terrific work in year two because they get to the final 8 of the National.
Well, planets aligned, though. Planets
Stanley
aligned for
Cup
them.
champions.
Yeah.
Planets aligned in that their shooting percentage was extraordinary. Last year.
Yeah, it was about as good as they could have met.
And then this year, I mean, Joey Decord saved a part of their season and kept them in it for as long as they were in it. So yeah, I mean, I can't say I was the biggest Dave Haxtell fan to begin with. I was a little bit surprised that they picked kind of a beige, bland coach to be the first coach of the team, particularly because it's not like the general manager is a light up the room personality.
But not many coaches that joined an expansion team.
They didn't have a lot of, I'm not sure they had a face. I'm not sure they had a great messenger, communicator in these first few years.
But no coaches sign up to an expansion job going, I can picture myself hoisting the cup with this team though one day.
No,
like, you're not going to be that guy.
There's a school of thought expansion coaches are hired to be fired.
Yeah.
That full well.
Your placeholder.
The guy you're hiring the first time out is not going to be there when the brighter days are ahead.
Yeah.
And Dave Haxtell had some bright days there last year. Tom McClellan's out there. I think Woodcroft is going to get another shot. I think it's becoming more and more apparent that, Edmonton's troubles early in the year where they just couldn't get saves.
Saw somebody mentioning Dean Evison.
I think he would. You think Quenneville gets a shot? Yeah.
It's surprisingly quiet on that file. Given how quickly Mike Babcock.
Well, I'm not sure it was that quick with Babcock. It was several years.
Okay, given Mike Babcock got a second chance.
Second.
You're
easing O's in this whole thing. Like, you mean third or fourth chance?
Well, no, but post Toronto. I mean,
okay. After being mean to Marner on the whiteboard. Gotcha.
I think somebody would probably go for Quenneville.
I do believe, I agree with Frank Cervelli that Quenneville now deserves to know what his status is by the National Hockey League. And apparently that's not yet been settled by Gary Bettman. And of course that has not yet been settled in part because you had the horrible episode with Mike Babcock and the young Columbus players early in the season. So anyways, the coaching carousel continues in the National Hockey League. And we'll see if any more of these guys shake out after the Stanley Cup playoffs. One team eliminated in Washington, one team going on in the New York Rangers, and more ability for teams to advance here. As soon as tonight, you got Florida, Tampa, right? Tampa's coming off the victory after avoiding the sweep. They're down 3-1. So you could see the Florida Panthers going on, and you could see the lawyer from Prince George, John Cooper, and the Tampa Bay Lightning eliminated in round one as soon as Monday. Hockey heads, get ready for the Daily Face-Off Playoff Parlay Challenge. Each game day, answer 4 questions. You pick a winning team, guess if the points will be over or under, predict the first goal, choose the highest scoring period. Daily winners are going to get gift cards. The champs of each round, pocket cash. Play now, games.dailyfaceoff.com. And let's get to our menu. It's brought to you by Greta, 50 West Cordova. And thank you to Chantel and Dalton and the entire staff there at Greta. We had 2 wonderful days there. Friday for game 3, Sunday for game 4. Took great care. It's a fantastic spot to watch all the action, to pregame, to postgame. They got the arcades. The intermission comes. Everybody heads out to their arcade game of choice.
It's a great way to exercise your nervousness too.
It really is.
You need to do something to get it out of your body. Go play a game.
I go for a low walk.
Yeah.
Everyone else goes there.
Yeah.
And at these Greta watch parties, we give away free game cards. So you walk in, say you want to be a part of it. We'll give you a game card. You get 3 hours of free play. So check it on out. Greta at 50 West Cordova. We got Crawford coming up here, Grady, or J-Pat? Crawford, Marc Crawford, former Vancouver Canucks head coach, who's joining us this series as an analyst. Of course, his son Dylan Crawford is part of the Canucks video coaching team. Mark staying up late in Switzerland where his coaching work is not done to watch these Canucks games. And look, as a guy who has participated in some crazy Canucks playoff games, and as the head coach of that 04 team that needed the 3 goaltenders to win the series, a particularly acute and attuned observer of this series who's got some insight on a couple of the things. And let's face it, there are very few walking the planet who can bring the insight that Marc Crawford can to crazy Vancouver Canucks playoff games and needing to go to 3 goaltenders to win you games within a Stanley Cup playoff series.
And being up 3-1 too in a series. He's got some experience in that regard too.
J-Pat is going to join us as well. He's making his way back from Nashville after doing some fantastic work reporting, and of course on Rink-Wide Vancouver after games 3 and games 4. Canucks with a chance to win the series here Tuesday at Rogers Arena against the Nashville Predators. Okay, time for our Bet365 best bets, and we're thrilled to welcome Bet365 as our sports betting partner just in time for the 2024 playoffs. We'll be here with Bet365 to provide you all the news, analysis, lines, betting options for the playoffs until one team is left standing in June. I'm going to ride a momentum play here, Blake. Brock Boeser coming off the hat trick. As we've seen many times before, Brock tends to score goals in bunches. As we also know, that line with JT Miller and Pius Suter is doing really well. So I'm taking Boeser over 0.5 points. It's paying 166. So if Brock gets a goal or an assist at any time in game 5, you make 66 cents on the dollar.
Okay.
What says
that's minus 166. You should make that clear.
Yeah, you make 66 cents on the dollar.
Well, not everyone is familiar with our lingo.
Okay.
1.66, you make 66 cents on the dollar.
Yes. It's a multiplier, basically. I'm going to go say today. So Matt's thinking tomorrow. You can ruminate on his prognostication there. You mentioned the Tampa Bay Lightning. I don't think they're going down. I think they lose in game 6. I don't think they lose in game 5. 255 on the visiting Lightning that are going to make the Panthers work for it just a little bit more. 255 with that talent. Yep, I think they can pull one more over.
Bet365, the largest sports betting platform globally. Open an account with Bet365 today and use promo code VANBONUS. All together, all one word, VANBONUS, to bet on a huge range of markets. So whatever the sport, whatever the moment, never ordinary at Bet365. Marc Crawford coming up next.
In a season like this, you never want to miss a single second of what's happening on the ice, and you want to be around your fellow fans, right? Well, Greta Bar YVR at 50 West Cordova, the perfect spot to do so. Hey, if you've got tickets, a great place to pre and post. They've got drink specials every single day. And if you don't have tickets, well, stick around and soak up the atmosphere with all your fellow fans, play all the great video games and air hockey, great air hockey setup as well at Greta Bar YVR. We'll see you there, 50 West Cordova. The Vancouver Canadians are back at the net. Catch fireworks, giveaways, and Friday nooners all spring and summer long. Get your tickets at CanadiansBaseball.com.
Our next guest is a presentation of the Arnold Palmer designed Whistler Golf Club, counting down to opening day on May 10th. We're less than 2 weeks away here, Blake. Club reminds organizers, groups of 12 or more, it's time to lock in those 2024 tee times. The prime times are filling up fast, and just for reaching out to hold that tee time, you, the organizer, plays for free. Whistler Golf Club takes care of the rest. Tell us about your group at whistlergolf.com/groups. I'm told the course wintered great, and of course the Bears are back, so check out all the spring preparations at Whistler Golf on social. Here he is, former Vancouver Canucks head coach, one of 3 coaches in the history of the Stanley Cup playoffs to play and win games in a series with 3 different goaltenders. Marc Crawford, Rick Tocchet, and Bill Ray of the 1971 Chicago Blackhawks. He joins us from Switzerland, where his Zurich club is in the finals. How you doing, Coach?
I'm doing really good. It was such an exciting night last night. We got the game with the TNT feed over here in Switzerland. So I stayed up. It started at 11 o'clock, and I stayed up till 2 in the morning watching it. So that was outstanding. I woke up my wife and my daughter when they scored to tie it up with 6 seconds to go.
Well, you've been a part of some crazy ones, Mark. Where does that one rank in terms of crazy games you've seen?
That's as crazy as I've seen it. First of all, I thought Nashville obviously carried the play for the game, and they really were out trying to just be menaces all over the ice, and they were hitting everything that moved. I thought that line with Tucker and North Van's Sissons, they were just sensational last night. They were getting in everybody's face, and they really carried the momentum, I thought, in the game. And of course, the big kid McCarron was just he was a big bully. But at the end of the day, the Canucks didn't have their best game. But in the playoffs, you got to find a way to win when you aren't playing your best. And the Canucks found what an exciting way to win it with those 2 empty net goals, that face-off play goal in the first period. And then they just, like you talk about breaking a team down, they broke the Nashville Predators down, and it didn't take till the 61st minute to really break them, but they broke. And great going for the Canucks, because that is a special win.
Let me take you back to 2004. You win game 1 with Dan Cloutier. You need Hedberg in game 3, and then Alex Auld comes in and wins game 6. So again, as mentioned, you're one of 2 other people in history who can take us inside this. Where is Rick Tocchet's mind when they inform him after Saturday's practice?
You gotta go to number 3.
We're not sure Casey DeSmith can go, coach.
It's actually that had to be just absolutely brutal news for Rick to hear, because Casey played so well in game 3 after maybe not being quite as good in game 2. So you get your goalie, who they spent so much money on this year. I mean, that was a great acquisition by Patrick and Jim Rutherford, because you need, in today's NHL, you need 2 goalies that can play and that can win, and the Canucks have it. But then to lose them, that had to be just disheartening. But give the kid, the young Latvian Silovs, he was remarkable last night. He was probably the best thing for me in the Canucks win, because his play, you could really see with the players that he was inspiring confidence in his play. I think about the drive play by, I can't remember which Nashville Predator that was, but for him to stand in there and make that save, I thought that was, usually you watch the body language of the Canuck players, and the Canuck players were really, I think, uplifted with that. This kid's got it tonight. This kid's got it. Like, we're okay. And that's the feeling that your goaltender always has to give your team. A lot of times it's a mental game, and body language is such a big part of it. And I thought young, is his first name Arturs?
Arturs Silovs, yes. Yes,
Arturs is, that was an incredible performance under very, very difficult circumstances.
What is your strategy now, pulling the goaltender and when? 2-goal deficit. I mean, we see it all the time. Coaches do it all the time, but I don't know if they have much belief that it's actually going to pay off for themselves. Back in the day, of course, it never happened inside 2 minutes. Now you have to get a little bit more aggressive, 4 minutes, 5 minutes, and then they got to put him back in. But they built with him going to the bench rather than get it into the offensive end. And what's your strategy? And it obviously worked marvelously for Rick Tocchet last night.
Yeah, it absolutely did. It's certainly, my strategy now is much sooner than maybe traditionally I would have been. But I have to tell you that I pulled the goalie pretty early in the series against Detroit that we won in 1996. And we were similarly behind by a couple of goals, and we pulled the goalie with about 5 minutes to go. So the Red Wings were caught unsuspected, and we got it to 5-4 in that game, but they ended up scoring in the empty net to beat us 6-4. So it was probably an ill-advised strategy by me at that time. The league wasn't ready for it just yet, and now the league is. But what a clinic the Canucks performed last night with the extra man. I mean, yeah, you got to have a little luck. And their luck last night was the guy hitting the goalpost. But how they got the puck in, how they moved it to the quiet area, how they isolated the Nashville Predators with their top plays, their movement up top, and how they surrounded the net. I mean, it was just a real thing of beauty. I just loved on the first goal how Lindholm or Lindberg. Yeah. I always get those guys confused.
No, Lindholm was in great position. Yeah.
Yeah, he just, he extended the net. That's what it's called. You extend the net by putting yourself right beside the net. And when you extend the net like that, you get that bounce. And his hands were so good, he got it across. And Boeser, who was just on fire last night, he found the back of the net on that one. And that was not as easy a goal as it looked for him, because he still had to get it by a desperate UC Saros. Yes. And then the last goal, I mean, it goes to show you, if you make a mistake on the 5-on-6 coverage, and the mistake was, the guy lost his footing going out, so now Yossi had to come out and try and block the shot, and that opened up the guys underneath. And again, Boeser to be able to have the presence of the mind to get the shot, look for the rebound, find it behind the net, and then take it to the front of the net and put it in the back of the awning cage. Like that, those hands were just slick, just special. And that's a clinic. We actually showed those clips to our guys today.
Did you? Yeah.
Especially about extending the net.
I think anybody who's ever played the sport can relate to reaching out, extending, and trying to pull that puck back. Never mind with the seconds ticking down in your head, knowing that the end of the game, and he very easily just could have raked that blade of the back of his stick over the puck and missed it, trying to reel it back into himself into the crease. I mean, the presence of mind, and as you said, just the good hands. I mean, he easily could have fumbled that one.
Yeah. On the other side, that is a play that obviously you practice, and the guys knew where they had to be, and they were there. And that's structure, but structure's only so good. You need brilliance, and the brilliance of the skill players is what carries the day. And never forget that. That's why you have skilled players out there, because they got to be able to do the things that the mere mortals of the game. I mean, if that would have been me, I probably would have, like you said, fumbled a little bit, and I might have got a concussion hitting my head against the boards.
Coach, what do you do with Quinn Hughes now? It's clear that he's fighting through something, and yet if you get the game on Tuesday, you buy him some rest. What have you made of the Canucks captain, and how would you handle what seems to be an injury that he's fighting through, with Predators players targeting him at every opportunity?
Yeah, I mean, obviously he's a player that they know is vital to the Canucks. I mean, he walks the blue line as well as anybody in the National Hockey League, maybe the best that's ever played for the Vancouver Canucks at walking the blue line. And I thought he did a great job, especially with the extra man in last night's game. So he's still obviously fighting through it, and he's finding it. And when he got crushed there in that sandwich check, and my heart went out to him. But that's playoff hockey. I mean, people play very hard, and it's not a sport in playoff time for players that are weak of heart. And again, I used to always remember Harry Neal. He would always say that, toughness isn't just being able to fight a guy. Toughness isn't being able to battle a guy one-on-one. Toughness is what Quinn Hughes showed last night, being able to suck it up, come back in, give what he got, give what he could. And toughness is being able to withstand that and not let it change your game. And he didn't change his game last night. I thought that was a real feather in his cap, because I think all those players recognized how many hits he's taken in this series, and also they probably know if he does have an injury or not, what he's dealing with. So you need everybody in the playoffs, and last night your special players were special at the right time even though the Canucks were not. That wasn't a gem of a game for them, to say the least.
Maybe Sergei Gonchar can give us some tips on how to avoid some of the contact. You saw Nick Lidstrom a lot. Like, he never really got stapled, and they're different players. Hughes a better edge work guy than Lidstrom, but you just couldn't hit Lidstrom. I wonder if Hughes can take a page watching some video of Lidstrom on still being able to be you, but also not get stapled.
Yeah, I think that at the end of the day, you really do have to, as you say, be you out there. Mm-hmm. And Quinn Hughes is a fine hockey player in his own right. He transports the puck out of his own end so well, and that's such a great thing to have happen when you have a defenseman that can exit the zone on his own. I mean, that stymies forechecks more than just pinpoint passing all the time. And, I like the way that he and Ronick move the puck together. And again, offensively, I still think he walks the blue line as well as anybody. He's always dangerous. He's got his head up all the time. He gets his shot through. So those are 4 or 5 things that you want from your defenseman, plus the ability to go inside. And to go inside, whether it's to make the pass to the inside as opposed to just throwing it up the boards or putting it off the glass, that takes a lot of courage. And once in a while, you're going to get hit, as we've seen from Quinn Hughes.
Second week in a row, Coach, we got to ask you about your progeny and the call not to challenge the Forsberg goal. Once again, it's a stress test with not a lot of time.
Probably the right choice again.
I'm not sure they win that challenge.
Yeah.
But what did you make of the goal, whether it should be allowed or disallowed, and the Canucks' decision not to challenge it?
Yeah, I was sitting there going, you got to challenge that. So it shows you where my mind's at. And thank God I'm not emotionally involved in the game, because those guys, they know the heat of it. And that was a difficult call to make, because it happened right at the start of the third period. There's still lots of time left, but you're sitting there saying, if there's a worse way we can start a period, I don't know what it is. But again, the Canucks have found a way to make those choices insignificant, because their play has been good at the certain points in the game. And last night, even though they didn't have a great 60-minute effort, who says you got to have 60 minutes effort to win? You need to be really good in certain areas of the game, and the Canucks found a way with that. I mean, not enough people talking about how good that face-off goal was. I mean, that was an outstanding face-off goal in the first period. And then, again, that was a clinic with the extra man. It really was. And, they had to have a little luck. So, and those things made it so those calls are insignificant. And when you get a bad call against you in the game, you just got to move forward. And that's the biggest thing. You just keep moving forward and keep trying to answer the next challenge that's right in front of you. And they did a great job of that, certainly in the last 3 minutes.
They were on the verge before that last flurry of setting a new Stanley Cup playoff record for fewest shots through 12 periods. 21, 18, 12, 20. And they've got a 3-1 series lead, Mark. What would you be telling your team today about the low shot totals and shots on goal heading into
the one thing that I would say is I thought the Canucks had a couple of crossbars in there that don't count, maybe a post there. They were getting I liked the chances they were producing, especially early and definitely late. So, Nashville's a stingy team. And it's like we said the last time we talked, when you can march out Yossi, and you can march out McDonough and Carrier and Lawson. You can march those guys out. It's tough to penetrate against a good D in the National Hockey League. I always look for playoff success. You need at least 4 boss defensemen. And, the Canucks have that now. They certainly can go probably 6 deep to varying degrees with the way that their defense group has played. But the Nashville Predators, that top 4 is a really good top 4, and they're tough to play against. So that's why the Canucks aren't getting a lot of free area because, give Nashville some credit. They defend really well.
So do you have an elimination game speech here? You're getting ready for a Game 7 speech yourself for Zurich, but do you have an elimination game speech? Because boy, do they do themselves all sorts of favors if they win Game 5, given they're
Yeah,
a little
for
bit banged
sure.
up. So,
And
like,
I'm sure,
how do you pound that home?
I just think Rick has been the guy that's had the right messages all year. So, rather than try and give him any advice, I leave it to him and try and find out what he said after the game. So he's been pushing the right buttons.
Yes,
There's never a guarantee. I know in the Minnesota series that we had a number of years ago, I thought our Game 5 was really poor, and that probably Game 5 more than Game 7 cost us the series. Because that's the game we needed to be ready for, and I think that's probably a situation that Rick's well aware of. Yeah, you want to rest is such a big thing in the National Hockey and health, rest and health, those two things, and maybe a fourth goalie to get a victory.
Well, and that brings us full circle here, Mark. Let's ask you the question. So. We've been told it's not a major injury. It is something that Casey DeSmith has played through in the past. Do you go right back there for Game 5, or do you let Silovs continue to run?
DeSmith at 90% versus 100% Silovs is probably the
well, yeah, and that'll be the decision for them to make. I think the really good sign is that he did practice, so obviously they didn't feel that whatever percent he was at was going to give them as good a chance to win as young Silovs. And I think that's the same decision moving forward here. But if he's ready and if he's improved and if his percentage goes up, I would have no problem going back with Casey DeSmith. That's why they got the bona fide top backup goaltender. They're one of the teams that has that luxury in the league, that went out and knew that they could rely on those backup guys to get the wins, and they need one more.
Mm-hmm. Mark, thanks so much for the time. Amazing insight as always. We wish you the best in Game 7 with Zurich. You stick it to Lausanne and their globalist fans, okay?
That's right. You got it. We're going.
Thanks, Coach.
All right, guys. Thanks a lot.
Thanks, Coach. Hey, everybody, if you're enjoying what you're seeing here, then follow along with Sekeres Price on YouTube. I promise more content coming.
The kids call it subscribe on YouTube.
Well, how about liking it?
Do that as well. Smash it right now. Hey, you. No, not you. You. Are you an owner-operator? Do you have a fleet of trucks or cars? Well, CalPro Plus might be the dedicated tire program just for you.
Free program includes exclusive deals and savings, price match guarantee, flexible financing, and preferred pricing on everything you drive.
Also, you get a dedicated member support line. That means that you can get questions answered. Also, they'll source and recommend the right tire for you, your application, and your budget.
Cal Tire's network of 260 plus stores are here to help so you can focus on the road ahead. Sign up for free at calproplus.com. Northlands Golf Course. Download the free app and book tee times with a touch of your thumb. And while you're on course, open the app for hole-by-hole GPS and track your score. 6 to 90-day reservations. Jump the queue. Lock in your date for $10 per player booking fee. Limited daily availability. Check it all out. golfnorthlands.com. Jeff Paterson is our Canucks reporter. They're finishing a rink-wide Vancouver last night. He's up and off to the airport to come home from Nashville here on Monday. Good morning, Jeff. How we doing?
Yeah, still trying to make sense of what I saw, what I witnessed, what I felt in that building. Quick story before we get into the game itself, but overtime, game ends, pack up the laptop, bolt from the press box at Bridgestone Arena, and you guys have been there. You know that it's sort of a makeshift press box in amongst the seats in the 300 level, run for the elevator. And as I get there, Barry Trotz and a few of his senior lieutenants are already in the elevator. And you could just, the look of despair and confusion, they're still trying to process. It was so quiet on that elevator ride down. I held my breath. I didn't even want to exhale for fear of setting anybody off. Like they just looked like they were ready to be triggered in some way after watching this series probably slip away from them. Although, man, their Predators played hard in both games here. It has been such a bizarre series on so many levels, and I know we'll get into a lot of it, but I would tell you, having watched every minute, every second of this series, that the better team has won once on opening night. Yeah. And even then, it took Canucks a while to get going. but they were the better team over the balance of play. But the last 3 games, I would say the better team has come out on the short end of the stick, somehow through it all with 3 goaltenders. The Vancouver Canucks have a 3-1 lead.
Just on the game itself or the finish itself, is that the craziest finish in Canucks playoff history you've seen?
I think so. I mean, 2 goals. And like, had they been pressing and pushing and it was a matter of time before they broke through, that might have been different. But guys, the shots were 10-2 at one point in the third period in favor of Nashville. The Canucks had shown no sign. There was no inkling in this building that a comeback was in the offing. Like, it absolutely materialized out of nowhere. And of course, Colton Sisson's hitting the post in a play that would have sealed the victory and quite frankly could have turned this series on its ear. To get the bounces, the Forsberg goal. You know, the Canucks go to the third period down 2-1 when they have played terribly, and yet they're still in the hockey game and 12 seconds into the third on a questionable play that ultimately stands up. But I thought that was going to be the kick in the gut that did the Canucks in on Sunday. And through all of that, somehow, some way, they picked themselves up off the mat. And their best players, I mean, JT Miller and Brock Boeser, easily the best players in this series. Miller in on 5 of the 6 goals that were scored here in Nashville. Brock Boeser putting on a show, the first playoff hat trick for a Vancouver Canuck in almost 30 years, going back to Trevor Linden in 1996. And look, Brock Boeser had an incredible season, a breakout season, 40-goal season, but it wouldn't mean much if he didn't back it up in the playoffs. And to see what he did, scored a nice goal on Friday, paid a price, took a cross-check, but on the doorstep, and then the 3 goals, including the 2 with the goaltender pulled. Brock's had a really nice start to this series and this playoffs, and he wants to be known as a guy that scores big goals for this hockey club. And you look back at his season, 4 on opening night against Edmonton, a hat trick and a good win over a Tampa team in December, scored the game winner in overtime against the Boston Bruins on a Saturday at Rogers Arena, and his 40th goal of the season was in the third period of a comeback win against the Vegas Golden Knights late in the season that went a long way to helping them clinch the title. So he has scored some big goals through this year, and then up the ante here in Nashville with the game winner on Friday, and then 2 goals that they had to have to set the stage for the overtime winner.
We thought goaltending would be a big part of this series. We didn't think that this would be the way in which that tale is told. And right now, goaltending is the story in that it's not the story. Like, it should be the story. Using 3 goalies, like, this should be a case of the Canucks trying to outscore the problems in goal because they're gone so deep. It's really not even a tale of the tape, is it? I mean, they've just been good, and they've kept them in it, and they've allowed them to pull off crazy, stupid miracles like that.
Well, I said on Rinkwide last night that, the Canucks have goalie drama, but the Predators have a goalie problem here, and that UC Saros has an .857 save percentage. And really, look at the 4 goals that were scored on Sunday, and I'm not sure that I fault him on any, but you give up 4, and the third stringer at the other end of the ice gives up 3. The Predators need some saves along the way. And Saros, who was the busiest goaltender in the regular season, you wonder if the workload is coming back to haunt him. But for the Vancouver Canucks, like, it truly was such a bizarre but spectacular day for storylines, and seemingly innocuous coach availability 2 hours before puck drop, and Rick Tocchet gets to the podium and in his sweats, and he looks pretty relaxed, and there's only about 5 or 6 of us in the room. Most of the attending media didn't even bother with the coach's availability because they had practiced and everybody was accounted for on Saturday, including the 3 goaltenders, and nobody saw it coming. And I asked Rick if there were lineup changes, and he hinted that he had a decision to make. And fortunately, one of the Nashville reporters followed up point blank and said, "Rick, is Casey DeSmith starting?" And at that point, you could see him squirm. And Rick has been honest as the day is long all season. You ask him a question, you get an answer. And that was the first real indication that something was up here, when you could see Rick kind of twisting in the wind a little bit. Didn't want to divulge, but it probably was killing him inside that he couldn't reveal the truth of what was going down here. And so, then shortly after, some of the reports came out, and Frank Saravelli broke the fact that, yes, it was going to be Arturs Silovs. So for the Canucks to have 3 wins in the series from 3 different goaltenders through 4 games, like that in and of itself, guys, after the game, like, you talk about the theater of the bizarre, we all rush into the Canucks locker room. As I'm going down the tunnel to the hallway to their room, I passed Casey DeSmith and Thatcher Demko standing there in street clothes. And you're just thinking, like, what in the world is going on? These two guys are standing there and they've got their third and fourth stringers in uniform and they've just pulled off the most improbable victory, one of the most improbable victories in franchise history.
There was no way Nikita Tolopilo envisioned him being even in that situation, right? Like, just crazy.
I like what our buddy JC said. Repeat the formula. Tolopilo in game 4.
That's right. Just rotate all the way through.
Jeff, we know what Coach Tuckett said. What would you do in game 5 here, starting goaltender wise?
Yeah, not fully armed with all the information. My gut tells me that Casey DeSmith, if he is healthy enough to play, they'll go back to him. And he was good here on Friday night. Thought he might pitch a shutout. They got the one late goal on him and then, stood tall in the final frantic few moments there. And Canucks were able to preserve the 2-1 victory. So need to sort of get the health update here. But if they have to turn to Silovs, I asked Rick Tocchet after the game, a lot of coaches in that spot, guys, having to go to your third stringer in the Stanley Cup playoffs, you'd probably think that your lot in life was probably cast at that point. But look, Tocchet saw Silovs firsthand last year after the coaching change, played a handful of games, played the Rangers, played the Bruins, so he faced some good opponents there. And then getting into the 4 games here late in the regular season where he went 3-0-1, Rick Tocchet said, like, Tocchet was remarkably calm. Everybody in the organization had this faith that, yes, it's stepping up a weight class, playoffs, playoff overtime, on the road, getting outplayed, and through it all. I mean, he gives up 2 goals. The Forsberg one, really nothing he can do there. I'm not pitting that one on Silovs at all. So, I mean, if they have to go back to Arturs Silovs, I think he has shown throughout the season and again on Sunday that he can deliver. The other thing, too, is, and look, now there's some heat on both of these teams. I mean, the Canucks don't want any part of coming back here to Nashville. Predators want to drag the series back to Music City, but there's also those 2 extra days between games again that if they were to go with Silovs, you would then allow Casey DeSmith that much more time to rest up and heal up. And again, this is all part of this, guys. Like, what kind of injury? And nobody was divulging any sort of information, but the nature of an injury that would keep a goaltender. Well, he practiced fully on Saturday, but kept him out of game action on Sunday. But then he could be ready for a game 5 elimination game on Tuesday night. So it's just, it is wild. It was wild in the moment here before and after the game. And we'll see where it goes from here. But the Canucks, I do think they have got a decision to make. My hunch, though, is that if DeSmith is ready, he will be in net.
As Silovs said, though, guys, he was so prepared because he'd played in Latvia. I mean, it's the same. Right. Latvia, NHL Plus, it's the same.
Jeff, we all know the phrase Canuck luck. We all know what that means. A North Vancouver kid hitting the post for a chance to seal it and coming back the other way to score 2 with the goalie out and then again in overtime. Are you taking this as an omen? Are we redefining, re-empowering Canuck luck in this series?
Well, in this series, perhaps, but when you look at just how beaten and bruised Quinn Hughes is, to think that a moment like that may spring them on some incredible run. It's so clear that he's nowhere close to 100% when he got tag teamed in behind the net there by Jason Zucker and Colton Sissons late in the first period, had to sit out a shift. And, I thought he was at the end of the bench to start the second period. And I thought, like, he's in rough shape. Like, is he only staying in this game to run the power play? Ultimately, he did play, but he was the low ice time defenseman through 40 minutes of play, which tells you something's not quite right with Captain Quinn. And yet through all of that, summon the energy to pull out the one bit of magic there late in the game, the play on Nyquist, and it leads to the tying goal. So he was down, but he wasn't out, and it's going to be really fascinating to monitor his workload and his usage. And if you're the Preds, you're just going to continue to attack and target Quinn Hughes. That comes with the territory of being a star player. Your Roman Josi has been on the receiving end of a couple of big hits. He took the puck in the face there in the ear, needed a bunch of stitches and some repair last night. So, it is taking its toll. It's been a heavy hitting series to this point, but the Canucks absolutely feasted on some luck. There's no question about that. But I love the execution too. Like, you get the break, and then you got to make the most of it. And the execution on the 3-2 goal, down low across the crease and onto the stick of Boeser. The tying goal was a little more frantic, and Boeser himself said he thought maybe he had missed his opportunity when the puck kind of rolled off his stick, hit the side of the net, and was able to corral it again and stuff it home. So, yeah, just all sorts of things going on. And then, guys, when you look at the winning goal, the Lindholm line really had done nothing since game 1 in this series. And in Nashville, they drew the Ryan O'Reilly matchup an awful lot. And O'Reilly absolutely dined on Lindholm in the faceoff circle earlier in the series. And yet there it was the Conn Smythe winner from a few years ago, a Selke winner. He's the guy that loses his man on that game-winning goal. It's Ryan O'Reilly who drifts over to the side, and Lindholm all alone in the slot. Great work by Garland behind the net. But it is funny that even the best in this game, momentary lapse, and it can be costly in the most high leverage moments. And that was certainly the case in overtime. And it's incredible. And you guys have lived through this too. When the visiting team wins in overtime, and this building was hopping throughout the afternoon, they're having a party. It was Sunday afternoon. They were up 3-1 in full control of the game. It seemed, in fact, the TV timeout midway through the third, the PA guy didn't say a thing. There was no music in Music City. It was the fans on their feet for 90 seconds. A standing ovation for the Predators at that point. They thought they were sending them back to Vancouver in a 2-2 tie. It was that moment of shock and silence when the only sound in the building is the winning team whooping it up as they pour off the bench. And there were two big celebrations, one with Lindholm in the offensive end, and obviously Silovs, some of the guys gravitated to him as well. So just so many moments through the afternoon. Absolutely a spectacle, right up there with some of the great sporting events that I've been fortunate enough to witness in person throughout my career.
Lots of kudos to hand out for sure. But the Canucks were very quick themselves. So this is not just media whining. The Canucks players, very critical of themselves at the very same time that they were excited, saying, okay, but we know we can't win that way again. They all want to be better. 2 shot attempts for Elias Pettersson. Boeser, Hughes, Lindholm, Miller, all really putting their stamp on that game, at least in the finishing moments, if not the rest of the game. But not so much Elias Pettersson. It's been hard to watch. It really has, and it's inexplicable at this point. 1 goal in 16 games now, and the play on that 1-1 goal after Jankowski tips the shot and the celebration, and Petey just gets bowled over and seemed to take it in that moment. And it's like, get up, push back. Like, where's any of that? There's just nothing. I mean, the 2 shot attempts came late in the game because for the longest time he had an empty stat line to his name, and this is an 89-point player. It's wild. Like there's just no other way to describe it, that he is so ineffective. And I thought he and his line had some moments in game 3 and they controlled play. And I thought maybe that would be a jumping on point for him. And yet I felt that game 4 was a step back until the late moments where, yes, he gets the second assist on the tying goal. But, the fact that we're grasping at a second assist 4 games into the series, he has 2 points now. I don't know. I don't know where it goes from here. I don't know how it gets a whole lot better for him. He looks frustrated. The team, Rick Tocchet after every game talks about needing more from some guys, and that's just code for they need more from Paterson. It's pretty clear. I mean, he's trying not to single him out, but without a doubt, we've seen this guy. We've seen him command games and take over games for stretches, and he had the bubble playoff series, and he had playoff success in Sweden as well. Like it defies explanation, and yet we're all watching it unfold in front of our eyes. And I wish I could offer up more insight that there was something there, but Jeff, game 2, the 9 shot attempts, we criticized him missing the net and getting blocked. And all that. At least he had 9 shot attempts. It was great.
But he's practicing here through this series. He's not taking maintenance days. So the people that he must be injured, they're all playing through something. But he was a full participant in Saturday's practice and was out there and played a regular shift. But and it's not just him. I mentioned that third line that really had done nothing. Dakota Joshua had the big first game, and you thought this guy's built for playoff hockey, and boy, he's been hard to find really since then. It was funny because as this game unfolded yesterday, and I know Gus Nyquist scored, but really through 2 periods of play, like it wasn't a night for the Stars on either side. And it was more the Kiefer Sherwoods and the Michael McCarrons and Mark Jankowski that seem to be running the Canucks show. Those guys play hard. They're fierce. They're in on the forecheck, and they were causing fits for the Vancouver Canucks. And I thought, you can't allow these guys to swing this series back in Nashville's favor. And ultimately that didn't happen. But the Canucks know, and you're right, to a man after the game, whether it was talking at the podium or JT Miller, he was the first guy we talked to, and as relieved as he was to get the victory and talked about it as being a big moment for this group, the second thing out of his mouth was, big moment for the group, but absolutely, we got to be a hell of a lot better than we were in either of the games here in Nashville. So to come to Nashville, get 2 wins with 12 shots on goal on Friday, and really be so clearly the second best team on the ice for 57 minutes. Again, it's just to add it to the long list of things that don't totally make sense about this series, but hey, the Canucks will take the 3-1 series lead.
The hesitation or lack of effort on the back check when Sherwood had the shot off the 2-on-1 from Nashville. Like it was one thing when he was just vacant and going through the motions. It was another thing to see effort lacking from Paterson as it did on that play. When we sat down to do our post game yesterday, he did not have a shot attempt on the event summary. I see they've given him now one shot in the shot audit. Jeff, speaking of shots, the totals for the Vancouver Canucks, 21-18, 12-20. They were on the verge of setting a Stanley Cup playoff record for the fewest shots through 12 periods of a series. They have 71 total, 17.75 is your average. It's a stupid question because the answer should be obvious, and yet in a series where logic doesn't seem to apply, is this a repeatable formula? Can they get through Nashville with another low shot game in game 5 or game 6?
I think they can, and I want to give the Predators all the respect and how hard they've played. They're not going to go quietly here, but as I watch this series closely and keep an eye on what the Oilers are doing, now I know the Oilers won a game with they had 12 or 13 shots themselves. So, but their power play is just humming. And the Canucks penalty kill has been terrific in this series. On Sunday, it was a 5-on-5 game. Both teams had 2 power plays and one of them overlapped. So there wasn't a lot of power play time there. But the way the Oilers are ripping it up on the power play and the way they have for the last couple of seasons, that certainly would be a challenge for the Vancouver Canucks. And so, yeah, I mean, they might be able to squeeze out another win. And that's all they need now to take care of the Nashville Predators. But it's only going to get tougher the further they go. The opponents are going to get better here. And I think the Canucks recognize that. But one thing to say it, at some point here, we have to see it. We've got to see that they recognize that the way it's going here is playing with fire. And, you know, they haven't been torched yet. But, boy, they've come close on a couple of occasions. So, you know, Rick Tocchet talked about the shot attempts. He's been asked about the shots on goal. And, you know, Sunday was the first time in the series, 4 games in, that they crested 4 shots in the first period, which is incredible as well. They keep talking about, we need a better start. And then they go out and they, 4 in the first game, 4 in the second, and then 3 on Friday night. But they did get to 8 shots on goal and open the scoring. It's funny too, guys. First goal of the game often means a lot in the National Hockey League, and the road team has opened the scoring in all 4 of the games in this series. So Canucks will try to, take that trend and tip it on its ear in game number 5. But yeah, I mean, I thought of their periods, the first period was their best period on Sunday, and they get out in a tie. Usually, as the road team, you're okay with that. Didn't spend a ton of time defending. There were a few breakdowns along the way, but then, boy, that second period, the ice really tilted in the Predators' favor. And I think a big part of that was that Quinn Hughes wasn't out there and available to tilt the ice back in the Canucks' favor. And you see what life looks like without Quinn Hughes. It's not a pretty thing for the Vancouver Canucks, but when he's not available and not playing at the top of his game, Canucks spent a lot of time defending, giving up a lot of rush chances. And that's one of the things that led to Nashville's success in the second half of the season. They were one of the top rush teams. And you look at a couple of the goals that they scored, the Nyquist goal, the Forsberg goal ultimately, and you mentioned, Matt, the Kiefer Sherwood shorthanded breakaway. Like the Predators, when they see opportunities, they love to get off to the races there, and so we'll see if that continues when the series gets back to Vancouver. For
all
Tuesday
the more
night.
reason to win it in 5 games. Give yourself some days off, right?
Yep.
So,
Absolutely.
For sure.
Hughes, yeah, for sure. Jeff, wonderful stuff. Safe travels home. We'll catch up later in the week, and of course, we'll be
all right, guys.
Rink Wide after Game 5 on Tuesday.
Yeah, we'll see what we're talking about the next time I'm with you, whether we're looking at the series back in Nashville or whether we can start to look ahead to round number 2 for the Vancouver Canucks.
Hey, everybody, if you're enjoying what you're seeing here, then follow along with Sekeres Price on YouTube. I promise more content coming.
The kids call it subscribe on YouTube.
Well, how about liking it?
Do that as well. Smash it right now.